My dear child, come closer. Sit beside me. Yes, right here, near the old window. Do you feel that breeze? This evening light, it reminds me of days long gone. Look at my hands. Do you see the lines, the folds, the tiredness? Each wrinkle is a road I have walked. Each scar is a story I have lived. You hold them so gently. Ah, your touch feels like spring on winter skin. Do you know, my little one, once I was as small as you are. Bright eyes, soft cheeks, a laugh that could fill a room. But time takes, time shapes, time teaches. And now I am here with you, carrying years that weigh more than mountains. Child, life is not just made of smiles. It is built from storms, from hunger, from loss, from nights when even the stars hide. But in those dark nights, I learned to breathe, I learned to hold on. I want you to hear, because when I am gone, my story must live in you. You are the keeper of my past, and the hope of my future. Ah, you look at me with those wide eyes. Innocent. Questioning, waiting. Yes, I will tell you everything, but promise me you will listen with your heart, not just your ears, because this is not just a tale. It is my blood, my breath, my truth. I remember the sound of wooden doors in my childhood home, the smell of fresh earth after the rain, the way my mother's voice sang me to sleep. Those were the only moments of peace I ever knew. Soon after, everything began to change. I was younger than you can imagine when I learned what sorrow meant. I saw hunger in my family's eyes. I saw my father's hands bleed to earn a few coins. I saw my mother's tears fall silently, because words could not ease the emptiness in our bowls. But even then I smiled. Do you know why, child? Because hope is a strange fire. Even when it flickers, even when the wind almost kills it, it refuses to die. You squeeze my hand tighter now. Yes, I can feel your little fingers pressing against mine. Don't be sad, my darling. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the teacher. And every lesson it gave me made me strong enough to stand here before you. Tonight, I will take you into my past. Not the kind of past you read in books, but the kind that lives inside scars and broken dreams. You will see me as a little girl, chasing butterflies, in the fields. You will see me as a young woman, heart full of love and hands full of sacrifice. You will see me lose everything again and again, and still rise, because I had no choice but to rise. When I speak, close your eyes if you wish. Let my voice paint the pictures in your mind. See the colours of my youth, the shadows of my grief, and the light of my survival. Child, stories are not only words, they are the breath of those who came before us. If I do not tell you mine, then one day you will search for your roots and find nothing but silence. And silence is heavier than sorrow. So listen carefully. My voice may tremble, but my heart is steady. I will give you every memory, every secret, every tear I buried in the folds of time. Yes, lean your head against me. I feel your warmth on my shoulder. You remind me that even after a lifetime of storms, there is still sunshine. And now, child, let us begin. This is the story of a girl who once lived in a small village, with dreams too big for the walls of her home. That girl was me, and her journey was carved with both love and loss. Are you ready? Then close your eyes, hold my hand, and walk with me into the past. Close your eyes, my child. Let me take you back. The year was long ago, so far you cannot count it. I was a little girl then, no taller than this chair you sit on. My hair was black as night, my feet bare against the dust of the village road. Our home was small, smaller than this room. The walls were made of clay, the roof patched with straw. When it rained, water leaked in, and we would place pots under the drops. Drip, drip, drip. That sound is still in my ears. But even with the leaks, that home was filled with love. Love was the only wealth we had. My father worked in the fields from sunrise to sunset. His back bent, his hands calloused, his face burnt by the sun. He would return with little food, but his smile never left. My mother, she was gentle like soft rain. Her sari always smelled of smoke from the clay stove. Her voice always hummed lullabies even when her eyes were tired. We were poor, child, very poor. But as a child I did not know the meaning of poverty. For me, life was running through fields, chasing butterflies with bare feet, watching clouds form shapes in the sky. I thought the world was wide and kind, until the day hunger knocked on our door. I remember it clearly one evening. We sat for dinner. My father placed a single roti on the plate. Just one. He tore it into pieces and gave me the largest piece. I was too young to understand why he took nothing for himself. But later that night, I woke to the sound of my mother crying quietly, and my father whispering, "Let her eat, she is growing. We can endure." That was the first time, my child, that I realized love is sacrifice. True love is giving when you have nothing left to give. The days grew harsher. Sometimes the rain would not come, and the fields cracked, like broken skin. Sometimes the storms came too much, drowning the crops before they could grow. I watched my father fight nature itself, and I watched him lose, again and again. Yet every morning, my mother would light the stove, even if there was no grain to cook. She said, "A home must always have a flame. Even if it gives no food, it gives hope." I did not understand then, but now I know she was feeding our souls, not our stomachs. I used to go to school, child. Oh yes, for a short while. I held books in my hands. The letters danced before my eyes, the numbers confused me. But I loved the sound of chalk on the blackboard, the smell of new pages. I wanted to learn. I wanted to write stories. I wanted to become someone greater than my hunger. But poverty is a thief. It stole my chance to study. One morning my father said softly, "We cannot send you anymore. We need you at home. Your mother needs help." I nodded, though my heart cracked. I placed the books on a shelf, and I never touched them again. From that day, my lessons came not from teachers, but from life itself. I learned how to fetch water from the well, how to knead flour with trembling hands, how to stitch old clothes so they would last another year. I was still a child, but childhood was taken from me too soon. Do you feel my hand trembling, little one? Yes, it is because those memories still hurt. Not because of the work, but because I had dreams, and dreams starve in poverty. I remember one festival day. All the children in the village wore new clothes, bright colours, shining like flowers. I wore the same faded dress, stitched so many times that the patches were patches themselves. The children laughed at me. They said, "You are poor. You are nothing." I ran back home, tears burning my face. My mother held me close. She said, "Clothes do not make you rich. Your heart, your courage, your kindness, that is true wealth." I did not believe her then. I only wished for a new dress. But today, when I sit with you, I know she was right. Child, remember this. Wealth is not what you wear, but what you carry inside. Do you want to know my happiest memory of those days? It was not toys, for I had none. It was not sweets, for they were rare as rain in summer. It was the nights when my family sat together. We lit a small lamp. My father told stories of gods and heroes. My mother hummed, and I rested my head on her lap. Even in the poorest nights, I felt rich with love. But time does not allow happiness to last long. One winter came colder than ever before. The fields froze, the crops died, and so did many hopes. My father fell ill. His cough shook the walls of our house. We had no money for medicine, no doctor to call. My mother prayed, I wept, but fate took him from us. Child, do you hear my voice breaking? That was the day I learned what it meant to lose, the first great loss of my life. I watched my mother cover his body with a cloth. I watched neighbours carry him away. I watched the man who had been my mountain turn to dust. I was no longer a child that day. I became the helper, the supporter, the silent strength for my mother. At night I wanted to cry, but I had to hold her instead. She whispered, "We must survive. For him, for you." And I nodded, though my heart was a storm. That was my childhood, my dear. Not games, not school, not laughter, but hunger, sacrifice, and loss. Yet even in that darkness, a small flame of hope lived. Because my mother taught me one truth: as long as we breathe, we must not surrender. So I carried that truth, like a lantern in the night, through the years that followed. And now, as I hold your hand, I want you to understand, childhood is not always play and joy. Sometimes, it is the soil where strength is planted, and though the soil may be dry and cracked, from it can grow the roots of resilience. Do you see, little one? That is where my story begins, not in laughter but in loss, not in comfort but in survival, and from there, the journey only became harder. My child, after my father's death, life changed completely. I was still young, yet the weight of the world was placed on my shoulders. I helped my mother in the fields, I carried water, I cooked, I sewed. Day by day, I became older than my years. But time is strange, little one. Even in my the hardest days, it brings moments of light. And for me, that light came in the form of a boy. He was tall, with kind eyes. His laughter carried across the fields like music. He was the son of a farmer, just like us, poor, but full of dreams. He would pass by our house carrying bundles of firewood, and he would smile at me. Ah, how my heart beat in those moments. I had never felt such warmth before. We spoke only in passing, simple words, shy glances. But in those small moments, I felt alive. For the first time, I was not just a daughter of struggle. I was a girl with feelings, with hope. He once told me, "One day I will leave this village. I will work hard, and I will come back for you." I held those words like a secret treasure. I believed in him, in his promise, in the dream of a life beyond hunger. But child, dreams are fragile. They break so easily. One night, my mother called me close. Her face was tired, her voice heavy. She said, "Your uncle has found a husband for you. A good man, older but stable. You must marry." My heart froze. How could I tell her about the boy, about his promise? How could I tell her that my soul already belonged to someone else? I whispered, "I don't want this, Mother." She placed her hand on my cheek. Her eyes were wet. She said, "We are women, child. We do not always get to choose. Marriage is not for love, it is for survival." Her words cut deeper than any blade. I felt caged, voiceless, trapped. But how could I fight her? She had given me everything, and she wanted only to secure my future. The boy came to see me the next morning. I told him through tears that I was to be married. His eyes widened, his hands shook. He said, "No, no, you belong with me. Wait for me. I will come." But I knew it was too late. The decision was already made. That night, I cried until my pillow was soaked. I prayed for a miracle, but miracles are rare for the poor. The wedding day arrived. I wore a dress that was not mine, borrowed jewellery that glittered but felt like chains. The man I married was much older, with lines on his face deeper than rivers. He was not cruel, no. But he was not love. He wanted a wife to serve, to bear children, to keep his house. And so my dreams of love were buried beneath the weight of duty. Child, do you feel my hand trembling again? Yes, because that was the second great loss of my life. Not the loss of a person, but the loss of my own choice, my own voice. And sometimes, losing yourself is the greatest tragedy of all. But listen closely. Even in that forced marriage, even in that silence, I learned something important. I learned that survival sometimes means enduring what you cannot change. It is not weakness, it is strength, the kind that grows quietly, unseen. In my husband's house, I worked harder than ever. Cooked, cleaned, cared for his old parents. I bore children, little souls who became the light of my dark nights. I poured every drop of love I had into them. They were my reason to smile, even when my own heart was broken. Yet, life did not spare me even then. Do you want to hear what came next, my child? It is painful, but you must know. One year a fever swept through the village. It was merciless, burning through homes like wildfire. I watched helplessly as neighbours carried their sick to the temple, as mothers wept for their children. And then, it came to my house. My little son, only 3 years old. His body grew hot, his breath shallow. I held him all night, praying, begging, crying. I whispered stories in his ear. I sang songs my mother had once sung to me, but by morning, he was gone. Child, I cannot tell you the weight of a mother burying her child. It is a wound that never heals, a silence that never ends. Even now, when I close my eyes, I feel his tiny fingers slipping from mine. That was the third great loss of my life. First my father, then my choice, then my child. But still, I lived on, because I had to, because there were others depending on me, because survival leaves no room for surrender. My daughter was still alive, small and fragile. I clung to her like a drowning soul clings to air. Every smile of hers was a reason to breathe. Every step she took reminded me that even in the ashes of grief, life continues. And so, my youth passed. Not in dances, not in joy, not in freedom, but in work, in loss, in resilience. Yet somewhere deep inside, a spark remained, the spark of hope, the spark of strength. Because even when everything is taken, a woman must carry on. Do. You see, little one, that is what youth taught me, that love is fragile, that choice can be stolen, that loss is cruel, but that the human spirit can endure more than it ever believes possible. I did not laugh much in those years, but I learned to stand tall. I did not dream much in those years, but I learned to fight silently. And now, as I sit here with you, I realise that every tear, every scar, every buried dream brought me to this moment. To tell you with all my heart, life may take everything from you, but never let it take your strength. For strength, my child, is the only treasure that can never be stolen. My dear child, by the time I reached the middle of my years, my heart was already heavy with grief. I had lost my father, my freedom, and my little son. But still, life did not stop. I still had your mother, a fragile girl with bright eyes, and I still had duties that bound me to this earth. Motherhood, child, is both a blessing and a trial. It is joy so deep it feels like light in your veins, and it is pain so sharp it carves you hollow. I poured all of myself into raising her. Every morsel I saved, every stitch I sewed, every coin I earned, it was for her. My husband was stern, often silent. He worked in the fields. He drank sometimes to forget his own burdens. There was no tenderness between us, no laughter. But there was responsibility, and in those days, that was enough to bind two people together. I could not expect love, but I could expect endurance. The years rolled on, marked not by celebrations but by survival. We lived season to season, crop to crop. If the rain came, we ate. If it did not, we starved. And in those starving days I learned what it meant to fight for survival. Do you know, little one, how hunger changes a mother? It teaches her to give up her own share, to drink water instead of food, to smile at her child even when her stomach burns. I watched my body grow thin, my hands rough, my back bent. But when my daughter smiled, I felt rich again. 1 year, a great drought struck. The earth cracked open like broken pottery. The wells dried, the cattle died, and the sky gave no mercy. Our village turned to dust. Families left their homes, searching for food, for water, for hope. Remember carrying your mother on my hip, walking miles beneath a sun that burned my skin. My feet bled, my lips cracked, but I would not stop. For every step I took was a promise. I will keep you alive. I will not let you fall. We reached a town at last, crowded with others like us, refugees of the earth. The streets smelled of sweat and despair. Children cried, women begged, men fought over scraps. I stood in line for food, holding your mother in my arms, praying that the pot would not empty before my turn. Sometimes it did. And then I would walk back empty-handed, my child hungry, and I would hold her close, whispering lies. Tomorrow, my love. Tomorrow we will eat. That drought took many lives. I saw mothers burying their infants under the hard earth, fathers breaking down like broken trees. But somehow, by some grace, we survived. Not because of strength alone, but because of sheer will. And will, my child, is stronger than hunger, stronger than fear. When the rains returned, so did hope. We went back to the village, and I rebuilt our life brick by brick, though my spirit was weary. Your mother grew taller, her eyes wiser. She did not laugh much, for she had seen too much sorrow too young. But she was kind, oh so kind. She had my mother's gentleness in her heart. Years passed, and I buried my youth under duties. Every wrinkle on my face came from sleepless nights, every grey strand in my hair from worry. But still I carried on, because a mother cannot stop, not until her children are safe. And yet, life was not done testing me. War came next. Yes, my child, war. Not in the way you read in books, with heroes and victories, but in the way the poor experience it, with fear, with loss, with silence. Men were taken to fight, women were left behind. Soldiers passed through villages demanding food, taking whatever they wished. I remember hiding your mother under the bed, pressing my hand over her mouth so she would not make a sound. I remember my heart pounding like thunder, as boots stomped outside, as voices shouted in anger. Those were nights of terror, nights when I thought I would lose her, lose everything. But somehow we survived again, not untouched, no, scars remain, but alive. Do you understand, my little one? Life is not kind. It gives you brief moments of peace, then tears them away, then tests you with fire, and you either burn to ashes or you become steel. I became steel, because I had to. Because if I broke, your mother would break too. But even steel feels the weight of sorrow. I lost more family in those years, cousins, neighbours, friends. Names that once filled our nights with laughter became names carved into silence. I stopped, counting the funerals. Grief became a shadow that lived in every home. Still, I carried on. Your mother grew into a young woman. She wanted to study, to learn, to escape the cycle of suffering. I wanted it too, with all my heart, but we had no money. So I taught her what I knew: strength, patience, kindness. And I prayed that life would be softer to her than it was to me. My child, can you see the tears in my eyes? These memories are heavy, but they are the truth of who I am. Every loss carved me, every sacrifice shaped me. And, yet through it all, I held on to one belief: that hope, however small, must never die. That is what kept me alive in those years. Not wealth, not comfort, not freedom. Hope. The hope that tomorrow would be better, that my child would live a life brighter than mine, that all my pain would not be in vain. Do you see now, little one? Motherhood is not just love. It is sacrifice. It is giving until there is nothing left to give, and still finding more to offer. And though I lost much, my childhood, my love, my son, my peace, I never lost my will to fight for the ones I loved. That is the legacy of a mother, and that, my child, is the gift I want to pass to you. My dear child, after those long years of hunger, loss, and war, I found myself standing in the middle of life with nothing left to expect, and yet still breathing. Sometimes I wondered why God had kept me alive when so many others had gone. Perhaps it was so that I could tell you these words today. When your mother became a young woman, I saw in her eyes what I had once carried. In mine, dreams. But her dreams were not of silk clothes or golden jewellery. They were of freedom, of learning, of living without fear. I had lost those dreams for myself, but I held them for her. I said, "Go, build a life that I could never have. Take the strength I gave you, and make it wings." It was not easy, child. We were still poor, still struggling. But I taught your mother the art of survival. I told her, never bow your head except in prayer. Never let your kindness be mistaken for weakness. And never forget that even the smallest seed can grow into the tallest tree if it is watered with patience. I worked until my bones ached. I stitched clothes for others. I baked bread for neighbours. I sold whatever my hands could create. Each coin I earned I gave to her, for books, for shoes, for her small steps towards something greater. And slowly, slowly, I watched her grow into a woman who carried my hope inside her. But life, as you know by now, does not give without taking. My husband, older than me, grew sick. His body weakened, his temper grew short. I cared for him until his last breath. He was never cruel, but he was never truly close to me either. When he died, I felt no great emptiness, only the weight of duty lifted. And yet, death is still death, and it leaves its mark. For the first time, I was alone. No father, no husband, just me and my daughter standing against the world. But by then, child, I was not afraid. I had lost too much to fear, losing more. I was steel, and steel does not break easily. I remember the day your mother told me she had found love. Her voice trembled, her eyes sparkled. For a moment I saw myself in her, the girl who once believed in promises. But this time I did not stop her. I did not cage her as my own mother had caged me. I let her choose, and that, my child, was the greatest gift I could give her. Freedom. Her wedding was simple but beautiful. Not because of silk or gold, but because of the joy in her smile. I sat in the corner, watching, tears rolling down my cheeks. Not tears of sorrow, but of release. I had carried her across storms, across hunger, across grief, and now she was beginning her own journey, with her own wings. In the years that followed, I became a grandmother. The first time I held a tiny bundle in my arms, I thought of the child I once buried. My heart cracked open again, but this time, not in grief, in joy. Life had taken so much from me, but at last it had given me something back. And so, my later years were softer than my youth, still hard, still marked with struggle, but softer. I planted a small garden, grew flowers that reminded me of my mother. I cooked meals with love, not just with fear of hunger. I told stories to little ones so that they would know where they came from. But age is another kind of storm. My hands grew weak, my eyes dim, my back bent. I could no longer work as before, and yet strangely, I found peace in that weakness. Because by then, my work was done. I had carried the burdens of my family across decades, and now it was time to sit, to remember, to tell. Do you know what age teaches us, child? It teaches us that life is not about possessions, not about wealth, not about how much you own or how high you climb. It is about the people you love, the sacrifices you make, the hope you pass on. That is all that remains in the end. When I look back, I see a path carved with blood and tears, but I also see strength, resilience, and faith. I see a woman who was broken many times, but who always stood up again. And that, my dear, is what I want you to remember. Do not think of me only as your old grandmother, sitting here with wrinkled hands and tired eyes. Think of me as the little girl who ran barefoot in the fields. Think of me as the young woman whose love was stolen, but whose spirit endured. Think of me as the mother who starved so her child could eat. Think of me as the widow who rebuilt her life from ashes. And most of all, think of me as proof that no matter how cruel life becomes, there is always a way to rise. Now, my child, I am at the edge of my journey. My body is weary, but my heart is full. Because I see you here, listening, holding my hand. And in your eyes, I see the continuation of everything I fought for. So when I am gone, do not weep for me. Do not think of my sorrows, but of my strength. Tell my story to those who come after you. Let them know that their blood carries resilience, that their roots are deep and strong. For this is what it means to live, my dear, not to escape pain, but to carry it, to survive it, and to transform it into hope for those who come after. That is the legacy of your grandmother. That is the gift I place in your hands tonight. My dear child, now you have heard all that my heart has carried for so many years. The walls of this little home have listened to my silence for decades, but tonight you have given me the gift of ears that truly hear. Do you feel my hand trembling in yours? These hands once carried baskets of firewood, kneaded dough for bread, stitched clothes by candlelight. Now they are weak, but they are at peace because they are held by you. I see the questions in your eyes. Why did I endure? How did I survive? The truth, my dear, is that I did not survive alone. I survived because I held on to faith when all else was gone. I survived because I loved, even when love left me wounded. I survived because I believed that tomorrow might hold something better, even if today was filled with tears. And now when I look at you, I know that belief was not in vain. You are the living proof of every sacrifice. You are the flower that grew from soil watered by my blood, my sweat, my tears. Do not look at my life and feel pity. Do not think, poor grandmother, who suffered so much. No, child. Think instead how strong she was, how deeply she loved, how bravely she endured. For that is the truth of my story. One day I will not be here. My chair will be empty, my voice will be silent. But when you close your eyes, you will hear me. When you walk through storms, you will feel me beside you. When you fall and rise again, you will remember, this is what my grandmother taught me. Promise me something, child. Promise me you will not let my story die with me. Promise me you will tell it, to your children, to your friends, to anyone who wonders how much a human heart can bear. For stories are bridges between the past and the future, and without them, we are lost. I have no riches to give you, no land, no gold, no treasures. But I give you something far greater, the strength of generations, the wisdom of scars, the courage of a soul that refused to break. Carry it with you as I have carried you in my prayers every night. Look at the light outside the window. The day has gone, and the evening has wrapped the earth in silence. Do you hear the crickets singing? They remind me of my childhood nights, long before the storms began. Life is a circle, my dear. It begins, it ends, and in between, it teaches. Come closer, child. Let me hold your face in my hands. Yes. Like this. Your skin is soft, your eyes bright, the very opposite of mine. But in those eyes, I see myself. I see every soul I ever loved, every hope I ever carried. Remember this moment. Remember the warmth of my hands, the sound of my voice, the beating of my heart. For these are the things that stay alive in memory long after flesh has turned to dust. Do not be afraid of sorrow, my child. Do not run from pain. It will come as surely as night follows day. But when it does, meet it with courage. Hold it, endure it, and then rise above it. That is the secret of life, not avoiding storms, but learning to dance in the rain they bring. Now let me rest just for a while. Your hand in mine is enough to carry me into dreams, and if tomorrow I do not wake, know that I left this world in peace. For I have told my story, and it now lives in you. So live, my dear. Live bravely, live kindly, live fully. And when you are old, and your hands are wrinkled, and your grandchild asks you about life, tell them my story. Let it live again in another evening light, in another pair of listening eyes. That is how we never truly die. That is how love, loss, and hope travel through time. Now, hush, sit with me. No. More words? Just the silence, the night, and the warmth of your small hand in mine.